Alrighty, everyone, welcome back to another live stream here on the channel. Hopefully everyone is having a fantastic Sunday so far. I apologize for no content yesterday. I was going to try to get something out, but man, the day just flew by so fast. So I apologize. I wasn't able to get anything out yesterday, but at least we're here now. Let's see what we have here in chat. We have Tornadic Rebel, Kaylee, as well as Jake, Edits, Weston Weather, Christopher. Let me go down a little bit more here. Plays in here, and everyone else who is in here, I may have forgotten to welcome, or if you're just now tuning in or may not be chatting, glad to have you in here. Alrighty, let's go ahead and switch to our main scene here. Just double check a few things. We should be good to go. Finally, the SPC site loads for once. It's a miracle. So yeah, I'm just gonna double check a few things on this end. Yeah, we are live. Just had to double check that. One time I ended up going live, but I actually didn't go live. I know, I hit the live button, but it didn't work. So yeah, let me pause this. That way I'm not using all of my RAM up. We are going to switch over to this really quick. Just the overall view. Very busy weather-wise across the U.S. today, across all basins, the Atlantic, the Eastern Pacific and the Western Pacific, nothing in the Indian Ocean though. So our main basins, which is the entire Pacific, really both the Eastern and the Western Pacific are active. And then much of the Atlantic is active as well. Thankfully, excluding the Gulf and the Central and Western Caribbean there. So yeah, a lot of activity in the 48 U.S., of course, as well. Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri going to be getting in on some severe weather action over the next couple of days. Also going to see some severe storms back out there in Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama. Looking like a pretty impactful severe weather event we're going to be seeing over the next few days. So much so, we may be live for multiple hours here on this channel covering one of these events. Tomorrow looks like it could be a destructive MCS for the state of Oklahoma and Kansas, or it may be a overconvective, just terrible setup. We'll go over both of those scenarios in just a bit. Then as we go on into let's see, Tuesday, that's going to be severe threat across Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. Looks pretty rough. If we can get some wind shear going, could easily see a couple tornadoes. Kaylee, Eastern Oklahoma, Central Eastern Oklahoma, Western Arkansas, Northern Texas, going to be the hot spot for the chance of some tornadoes going on into Tuesday. That might be a day we have to be live. Wednesday, that severe threat moves on into Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky under the gun for some severe storms there going into day 4, which is Wednesday. And then into Thursday, I haven't looked that far out. We'll see. We'll see what things look like on Thursday. That's day 5. I haven't yet looked past that. I do know, though, starting Saturday, the SPC said that it would be an inactive pattern for severe weather. So maybe we could see some severe storms Friday, or rather Thursday and Friday. We'll take a look at that. Those are the 2 days I ain't looked at yet. Welcome, Lucky. Glad to see you in here. Payne, glad to see you in here. Glad to see all of y'all in here. Hopefully you're all having a great Sunday. Let me see. Bob back in here. Glad to see you in here. Honestly, let's see. I honestly haven't gotten the confidence about tomorrow. While a brief tour threat may be possible, a 20 knot lower level jet, elevated thermodynamics will make it increasingly harder rather, as the night goes on. I don't really. I think tomorrow we'll have an isolated supercellular 2 that could end up dropping a brief tornado or 2 in western Oklahoma, maybe into central Oklahoma. And then I think the main show will probably end up being that MCS. However, the later we go on in the day, the more models have shown kind of a messier mode for tomorrow. But yeah, I don't think tomorrow will be a crazy day, but let's go and take a look at it. Why not use Radar Omegas, or not Radar Omegas, weather-wise. Radar Omega did have an update, but mid. Weather-wise, let's use Weather-wise's new update here to take a look at today's risk for severe weather using the HRRR. So right now we do have some pretty strong storms out there across northwestern Texas. You can see these stronger cores here. These are active severe thunderstorm warnings in place. Obviously, HRRR not doing too good with this storm. Definitely not the best initiation on the HRRR. But as we go into the rest of today, I really don't see today doing much. Really, we could see just a brief tornado. The main threat is 2-inch hail and 70-mile-an-hour winds, but a brief tornado can't be ruled out. And definitely want to watch towards the DFW as we go towards about 10 o'clock, 9, 10 o'clock Eastern time, so 8, 9 o'clock Central time out there across portions of northern Texas. And then for the rest of the night, all these storms just die off. So really not anything over the top today. The next 2 hours are going to be the highest threat for severe weather. That will be across Wichita Falls, back out towards Jacksboro, Decatur, Denton, Gainesville, Texas. That will be the area we're watching for the next 2 hours or so. Looking at the current radar once again, this is your current radar, not a model run. You could see that main cluster really weakened over the last couple of minutes here. Last time I looked at this, it looked a lot stronger. So not really as concerned about this anymore. It looks like this really died off in the last literally 15 minutes. So main threat, frequent lightning, heavy rain, maybe an inch and a half in diameter hail there. I don't see that 2-inch hail threat anymore because these storms are, man, they really fell apart. Like, look at this. This is what it was like 30 minutes ago with those 2-inch hailstones, 70-mile-an-hour winds, and now it's just, really fell apart there. So that's really, really good. But these 2 storms could be a bit more interesting. They are discrete all by themselves. We'll have to watch both of those, so keep an eye on that if you are out there in Denton. I know Caden lives out in Denton. I don't know if he's in chat right now. He's between Denton and McKinney in Texas. And then we also have another stronger storm up here near Sherman in northern Texas. We'll keep an eye on both of those over the next hour or so. So keep an eye on those 2. Those 2 look to be the most interesting right now. Really wasn't modeled well on our model runs. Yes, I did see the race, and yeah, honestly, it was the best New Hampshire race I've seen in a long time. I've been watching NASCAR for about 4 years now, and out of the, I don't know, I think about 8 races from Cup Series I've watched there, this was probably the best one. Let's see. Yeah, most of Oklahoma is under the gun for severe weather over the next few days. So we'll dive on into some model data here. Actually, before I do that, I'll just go ahead and get to the outlooks real quick. So let me get rid of, let's see. Okay, radar, we are going to take you all the way over to Hawaii, so that way we don't have to see that. We could declutter this a little bit. So today's risk for severe weather does include eastern Oklahoma, southern Oklahoma. We did actually have a tornado warning earlier in eastern Oklahoma. I think it was somewhere close to just south of the I-40 corridor. I don't remember exactly where, but I know it was from this active severe a little bit more to the west about an hour ago. So main threat, 60-mile-an-hour winds and half-inch hail. Not a big deal. Main tornado risk is going to be on the southern end of Oklahoma, but it seems like that is not really that much of an issue today. So that's really good news. There's your tornado risk, really only for Ardmore, Oklahoma, pointing a little bit to the west-southwest. Wind risk, that's your main threat across Oklahoma. And then also some hail up to 2-inch in diameter near Ardmore, Oklahoma, can't be ruled out. But again, not performing that well, not really a overperforming risk or even a normal performing risk at the moment across northern Texas. Those storms very much congealed into a messy cluster. Only really these two storms are going to be the ones to watch for the next hour or so. Then going into tomorrow, it's almost the entire state of Oklahoma is under the gun for severe weather tomorrow. Just the smallest quadrant in southeastern Oklahoma and the smallest quadrant in far western panhandle Oklahoma not under a marginal for tomorrow. Much of the state under that very large marginal level 1 out of 5 for severe weather, and a good chunk of the state under that level 2 out of 5 for severe weather, that slight risk for severe storms. We will have the risk for a couple tornadoes tomorrow. That 2% is mainly focused across northern Oklahoma, but that easily could shift further off to the south with our newer model guidance, definitely showing a better threat for tornadoes on the southern end of this 2%. Wind threat will also be the main concern. That is the number one concern for tomorrow. Widespread 60-mile-an-hour winds, a few gusts up to 70, and we can't rule out the isolated gust as high as 80 miles per hour tomorrow if that MCS can really, really get going. Hail also will be an issue, especially in Kansas, maybe pushing into the panhandle of Oklahoma. Could see some up to 2-inch in diameter for tomorrow. And then going on into Wednesday, or no, this is Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday, southeastern Oklahoma under the gun for severe weather again. And I think right now, Tuesday looks the most potent out of the next 3 days for severe weather. Out of today, tomorrow, Tuesday, and Wednesday, Tuesday looks the most potent for severe storms. Right now, obviously, day 3, we can't see a tornado risk, so we could still look at our probability outlook for day 3. Generally, it looks like damaging winds, large hail, and a few tornadoes will all be possible. And depending on the timing of our trough, we could have the chance of a strong tornado going on into your Tuesday evening and overnight hours. And I do think this slight risk will be expanded a bit more to the north. I think this should go all the way up to Fort Smith, Arkansas, all the way back up towards near just southeast of Tulsa, Oklahoma. I really think should be in that slight risk for severe storms. But it all depends on when storms fire and exactly where. Right now, the model guidance we have actually fires storms north of Tulsa, so that slight risk and marginal risk may be expanded both off to the north-northwest with the newer data we've gotten over the last couple hours. Now, there is a lot of uncertainty on the mode of this. I think it will be a discrete to clustered mode. So our main tornado threat will only be for probably 2, maybe 3 hours. And that looks to focus probably between 5 p.m. and maybe 8 p.m. So about a 3-hour window there for your tornado threat. And that is in Eastern time. Take off an hour if you're in Central. And it really looks to be focused across where that slight risk is, also pointing north right in here. Looks to be that main threat for all hazards, according to our model guidance at the moment for Tuesday. And like I said, could even see a strong tornado going into Tuesday evening and night, just depending on the environment. We'll have to see what our models show when we get a little bit further down in time here, but definitely a risk for at least a brief tornado or two. If not, we could be pushing a couple tornadoes possible, maybe even a strong tornado being possible there. And then going on into day 4, nothing highlighted on the day 4 risk just yet from the SPC, but I do think we will see a pretty good-sized slight risk for severe weather across Tennessee, Mississippi, and Alabama. But they may not do that until we get closer, so the day 3 risk may just consist of a very large marginal risk. A very large marginal risk for the day 3 outlook. And that slight risk may come in, later categorical updates. And then that is as far as I've seen. Like I said, I didn't look any further out than that. So we're going to jump on over to our, the best model in the world, the North American model, commonly known as the NAM model. definitely the best model in the world. Trust. Totally not wrong 10 out of 10 times. No, definitely not. So this is the thing that's causing our severe weather today. It's this tiny, and I mean tiny, little shortwave trough embedded in this very large, weak, very weak trough ejection there. So it's just the tiniest little trough, little kink of flow across the Red River Valley in southern Oklahoma and northern Texas, causing the chance for severe storms today. Then as we go into tomorrow, Monday, you'll notice a bit of a bigger kink beginning back out here in the Rockies. That will increase the chance for some isolated severe storms, not only in the Rockies themselves, but specifically just east of the Rockies, mainly focused in this corridor here, going into really very late tomorrow, mainly to actually Tuesday morning. You'll see this trough really doesn't come through until we're talking near midnight, closer to midnight Eastern time, technically Tuesday morning. So I think that will probably end up being the better time frame for some severe weather. And then going on into Tuesday evening and Tuesday night, this is where it looks a bit better for severe weather. This is the one that really has caught my eye here. You'll see we have this very large belt of flow, and it's very weak flow. It's not that strong of ascent. It's not a strong negatively tilted trough. It's not a crazy mega trough that you see for second season. It is a very weak, broad, positively tilted trough across Oklahoma and northern Texas. And if we take a look at instability, you have some really good instability return across central and eastern Oklahoma. I think the NAM is a little bit too far to the west on this. I think our Cape will be more east. And that should really set up our main risk for tornadoes, really right in this corridor here. The NAM would definitely be a bit more west if the NAM were correct. Yeah, you could see the NAM is kind of thinking maybe more towards here for our greatest corridor of tornadoes. But I think it will be closer to that black circle, not the pink one there, because I think the NAM has a bit of a slow bias here. So that should allow for, and you can see the NAM is actually portraying this pretty well too. It actually erupts multiple supercells just after dark here in southeastern Oklahoma. Looks like a couple supercells erupting there at about the 02Z time frame. That's about 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. at Central Time here in central southeastern Oklahoma. And the environment, very favorable for a couple tornadoes. Lower level wind shear up to about 250. Mid-level wind shear, not a problem, upwards of 350. Instability, it is getting dark, but even then it is still up to 3,000 instability there. So a very favorable environment for a couple of tornadoes going into Tuesday. And your lower level jet, you could see, is up to 40 knots there, because obviously these storms are firing closer to dark, and that allows for your lower level jet to ramp up. Lower level jet just, it ramps up after dark very commonly. And then as we go into, let's see here. So that was Tuesday. As we go into Wednesday, you'll notice that same weak flow is still present, but it's actually a little bit better. It is actually a bit better, because you could see a short wave here embedded inside this weaker flow. Actually, maybe multiple little short wave kinks, especially back up here into Kentucky, back down into Oklahoma, embedded inside of this larger, broader, positively tilted trough here. And the NAM is definitely not as aggressive with this environment as some of the other models. But you have a very large open warm sector from Texas all the way up to Kentucky. And it's right along a very weak cold front. And you can see the NAM very far south. That puts your severe threat actually in more of Louisiana and Texas. So this is very far to the south. The models I looked at were definitely more towards up here for your main threat of severe weather, not further well into southeastern Texas. So generally just want to keep an eye on this area for the chance of a couple tornadoes, 60 mile an hour winds, 70 mile an hour winds, and 2-inch hail being a possibility because, we have 75-degree dew points. Your temperatures are going to be in the low 80s. You're going to have very weak wind shear. That's definitely going to be a problem for tornadoes. Not a lot of wind shear because you have that positively tilted trough. So it's not a day where you could see, at least at the moment, strong tornadoes. But with that more weak ascent and a more discrete mode there, could promote at least the chance for a couple tornadoes from Texas back up into southern Kentucky. So we do want to monitor that closely as well. And then after Wednesday, I haven't looked at this yet. This is Thursday, and it doesn't look very impressive. Large area of stupidly low instability. Very minimal instability here. And you may be saying, well, why is that? Why isn't there like 3,000, 4,000 Cape out here in the mid-Atlantic? Well, your trough. Your trough is now completely positive. What that means is there's pretty much no kind of grab for the atmosphere out in front. Our trough can't grab the ingredients from the Gulf and stream it up into the Carolinas or into the mid-Atlantic or into the Ohio Valley because your trough is so weak that it's just doing nothing at that point. It's really not doing much. Now, you could see there is a little bit of some short waves here. I really don't see any, to be honest with you. There's a few little kinks in here, but really these contours are very much straight. There's not really a lot of shortwave action happening in here either. Shortwaves also greatly help with just pulling a more favorable environment from the Gulf northeastward. So Thursday probably won't be a big day for severe weather. I still do think we could see some isolated severe storms, 60-mile-an-hour winds, 1-inch hail, maybe a brief tornado, and the area to watch will definitely be right in front of that trough. So all the way from the coastline of southern Louisiana all the way back up into southern New York will probably be the region to watch going on into Thursday afternoon. Let me go check. There's a product I can look at real quick. Yeah, looks like the main area is probably going to be closer to the coastline because that's where your main cape will be. But even then, you can see Alabama barely gets into the 1,000 for instability. So very isolated risk for severe storms. Very, 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 very isolated. It is not a good setup for severe storms whatsoever. And then Friday, I imagine not... Ooh. Little tiny... I like that little tiny area of instability like right over my house into the Carolinas there too. Yeah, not... That might be slightly better. The reason why is because your trough is trying to tilt a bit more negatively. And you can also see right there, that's what we're missing on Thursday. We've got a tiny little short wave there focused over southwestern North Carolina. That could help increase the risk for some severe storms. So we'll have to watch probably I feel like still like this area in here will probably be the main area to watch for Friday. But again, I don't expect that to be anything crazy. 60-mile-an-hour winds, 1-inch hail, maybe a brief tornado. So right now, the main days I'm focused on tomorrow night in western Oklahoma. Tuesday night, let me go back to the NAM model here. So tomorrow night in western Oklahoma. Wednesday in southeastern Oklahoma. Thursday across mainly probably Mississippi, maybe into Louisiana. That's really the main 3 days, main 3 areas I'm watching. Tuesday, which is obviously the day after tomorrow, actually, technically, very, very late tomorrow. Very, very late tomorrow. Let me show you the HRRR here. Show you the HRRR. Not really much fires until like 11 o'clock tomorrow night. So it's like the last 1 to 2 hours tomorrow, like 10 o'clock to midnight, or 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock tomorrow, and then all day Tuesday. That's what we're really watching. And you can see that MCS tries to grow upscale in the morning hours. And then that will also influence what happens in the afternoon hours. Because if you have this huge area of leftover convection in Oklahoma through the afternoon hours, well, that's going to stop any instability. You can see here, if we go to Cape, there's a very clear boundary that sets up right in here because you just get a bunch of that leftover convection that just takes up all the Cape up there in Oklahoma and Arkansas. Whereas if we go to like the NAM3K, maybe that's not as bad. Well, the NAM3K actually shows it a bit worse. So that's definitely a good thing and a bad thing. A good thing because that means the severe weather won't be as widespread. Bad thing because that means we could have some supercells that try to ride that boundary. You can see like the NAM model. The NAM model is so far north with the warm sector, but the NAM 3K and the HRRR have it pinched off. So definitely some big question marks for Tuesday, but just wherever that boundary or warm sector sets up, that's going to be the main area to watch for the chance of some severe weather, including tornadoes. And you could see, go to the NAM 3K, right on that boundary, really, really good wind shear, really good cape, really good environment right on that boundary. And you can see a couple semi-discrete supercells try to fire, but it looks like the NAM doesn't sustain them. And then you have this big cluster of damaging winds up here. Now that big cluster is probably a linear bias from the NAM 3K. So yeah, that's what we're dealing with. So tomorrow, again, very, very late tomorrow, storms initiate in Kansas, maybe eastern Texas. That will be the main threat. A couple tornadoes, rather, let me rephrase. A brief tornado or two, 60, 70 mile an hour winds, 2-inch hail will be possible there. Can't rule out a gust of 80 if that MCS really gets going. Depending on that MCS, we may or may not have a big warm sector for Tuesday evening into Tuesday night. And then that will shift the threat for severe weather a bit further off to the east, generally in this area for the main threat of severe storms. And then going on into Wednesday, that threat shifts. Now, I do think this is a bit south, but generally it could be anywhere from southern Kentucky all the way back down into Texas with that main threat of severe weather for Wednesday into Thursday morning. And then, like I said, Thursday, very, very weak. Very, very weak instability, just a very minimal threat of isolated severe storms across this general region for Thursday. And then finally, Friday, that risk shifts just a little bit south and a little bit east towards this region. There you go. That will probably be the end of this little active stretch of severe weather, and then we'll go back to these mesoscale days, and look at that. Looks like a bit of an omega block right there. High pressure, low pressure, low pressure. A little bit of an omega block trying to set up right there. Actually, that is a low pressure. You could look at those isobarbs. That's actually a low. Yeah. So low pressure. And then that is a high pressure and then another low. Little omega block trying to sneak in there. Not a good high pressure though in the middle. Yeah. I was looking over here because I'm getting confused. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is a low pressure. And then the winds come like this, rotate around this way. Yeah. That's a high pressure. Gotcha. Just want to double check that is what looks to be an omega block trying to set up right there. Ooh. You know what that will do? That will definitely inhibit any notable severe weather. Now, we may still get some mesoscale days out of those low pressures, specifically in the western plains, but really that would limit any type of notable severe threat in probably from the rest of September into the first week, maybe even, first week of October. Rest of September into the first week of October. So pretty active stretch of severe weather for the next 3 days. And then we have an isolated severe risk on Thursday, Friday. And then after Friday, looks like that omega block is going to try to set up. Will be hot, but probably pretty inactive in terms of severe storms. But you're still going to get rain. An omega block doesn't mean no storms. Definitely going to bring some rain chances back to Virginia, North Carolina. We have been dry out here. Desperately need this rain Thursday into Friday morning. Alrighty, so that's your severe weather update. Let's go to the tropics now. We'll go over to here. Get rid of this. Go to satellite. Go to the main development region here. We do have Hurricane Gabrielle. Trying to think of how to pronounce that. Hurricane Gabrielle. This was just recently upgraded to a hurricane at the 5 o'clock Eastern advisory. And actually, is now forecasted to become a major hurricane east of Bermuda. So we'll probably end up with our second major hurricane of the Atlantic season here. And thankfully, will be another fish storm. Hopefully, this will be well east of Bermuda. But if you are in Bermuda, I do want to keep an eye on Bermuda just for the chance of some rip currents, some larger waves. But overall, the main rainfall, heavy rain, winds, that's all going to stay to the east of Bermuda, and then it will just go on out to sea. Now, there's two other areas of interest here. We've got a 50% chance of a tropical storm or a tropical depression developing out of this little blob of convection you see here in the eastern, or rather western main development region. And I really don't know what to think about that, honestly. I'm a bit 50-50 on that. I don't really see much model support for it at the moment. But it does have a chance to become a tropical storm or a hurricane. The good news is, if it does become a tropical storm or a hurricane, it's going to go out to sea. There's a very high probability of that. Very high chance that's just going to be a fish storm if it even develops. But still, if you are in Bermuda, you're going to want to watch this storm too, just in case, because that's going to probably cut very close to the same path that Gabrielle is taking right now. And this little guy here, this guy's got my attention because a couple models and ensembles have aimed this at the United States. So if there's anything that's going to interrupt plans this upcoming weekend, about a week from today, it's going to be this little fella here. Could come very close to the Carolinas if it does manage to develop. You could see that AOI very far south, and a couple ensembles definitely have aimed it very close to the Carolinas. I actually saw a few earlier today that actually took it into the Carolinas and then eventually right back out to sea. So this one really has got my eye here, because even if it doesn't develop, it's still going to bring some heavy rain to the northern Lesser Antilles, maybe into northern Puerto Rico, possibly into the eastern Bahamas. So want to keep an eye on this. So 3 areas to watch out here in the western, southwestern Atlantic. Of course, one a major hurricane, one will kind of has a 50-50 shot here at becoming a tropical storm, and then one that's going to might be a close call to the U.S., depending on if it develops. Now, if it stays weak, it should just go out to sea. So fingers crossed it doesn't develop, and then it will just go in between North Carolina and Bermuda. But if it develops into a tropical storm near the Bahamas, then that will allow it to go a little bit closer to the U.S. So want to watch that very, very closely. I'll show you some models on that. But right now, models are kind of split on that. Most of them just destroy it, and it goes out to sea. Some do develop it. We do have a Eastern Pacific tropical storm, or soon to be. Actually, I think that is a tropical storm. Is that named or not? Yeah, it was named at the 2 p.m. advisory. So we do have a tropical storm here in the Eastern Pacific. We called that out in our last live stream. That's going to probably end up becoming a hurricane, and may even be a borderline major hurricane by the time it gets well out into the Eastern Pacific. All right, before we touch on our Super Typhoon out there in the Western Pacific here, I do want to go over those model runs because I don't want to forget. So let's go to our model data here. All right, so these are your ensembles. I haven't looked at all these ensembles yet. These are the newer ensembles. Yeah, you could see some do develop it. You see 2 ensembles, definitely not many, that's for sure. Only 2 ensembles there develop our system, and the rest just kind of destroy it wherever it may be. So that's really good, but only 2 ensembles develop it there. If we go to our GFS ensembles, a bit better of a signal. Definitely a bit better of a signal there on our GFS ensembles. A couple do develop that into a tropical storm. One brings that into Georgia, one into South Carolina. Very close call for North Carolina, and another one into North Carolina there. So definitely a few ensembles there. And then we also have our Google AI ensembles. Very aggressive signal there. So this is actually... This is the same system that was going to be sneaking into the Caribbean and could develop. The GFS had that developing towards Cuba a couple of days ago, but now it's kind of shifted a bit north. So we're no longer watching the Gulf and the Caribbean. we're actually watching the far southwestern Atlantic for the chance of some tropical development. So very big signal there on the Google AI model runs, and then a different Google AI model run here, also a very weak signal there. So kind of mixed fill-ins on this one. You got models like the European ensembles that are mainly saying definitely not. Some with the GFS ensemble saying, hey, could become a tropical storm. Then you have your more aggressive Google AI ensembles that are much more aggressive with the possibility of a tropical storm, borderline hurricane in the southwestern Atlantic. Overall, I don't think the conditions are that favorable. I'm thinking tropical storm at best with this. And if you are in North Carolina, the southeastern U.S., it doesn't hurt to just keep an eye on this system. But there's a lot of uncertainties with it. But it's nothing to panic over, something to watch, not worry about. And we'll watch it closely in the coming days, and I'll let y'all know if anything substantial does change. Alrighty, let's go all the way to a different basin than the Atlantic. We're going to go all the way to the Pacific, but the opposite side of the Pacific. We're going to go to the Western Pacific here. And we're going to start with the JTWC, which is like the National Hurricane Center, but for the Western Pacific, as well as for the Indian Ocean. And we're going to take a look at Regassa. Still haven't learned how to pronounce that. We're just rolling with it. But there is the JTWC, which is, like I said, like the NHC, but for the Western Pacific and the Indian Ocean. And you can see they have our Super Typhoon here at 145 knots sustained as of 2 p.m. Eastern. That's somewhere close to, like, I don't know, about 4 a.m. or so in the Philippines. It's day now. It's starting to get day. I believe it is day now in the Philippines. This last update was about 4 hours ago at this point. And they have it at 160 mile an hour wind sustained, 145 knots sustained. I think pressure's down to like 910 or something around there. Actually, I didn't look at the new pressure. They did update that pressure. Let me go check the pressure real quick. It was like 910 when I last checked. It's 914, so that pressure they have a little bit higher than the 8 a.m. Eastern advisory. Wind speeds are still the same there. But that is definitely a super typhoon. Zoom out a little bit here. We'll take a look at your satellite imagery. We'll close this out. Let's see, keep that open. So this is your satellite imagery here. And let me refresh this because I ain't refreshed it in a while. And load this up. Load up a loop. Yeah, so you can see it is getting day out there now. Very much day. There you go. So just now getting day out there. And the main thing actually I want to show you is actually this one or... Nah, this one. That eye. This is the newest imagery with the Super Typhoon out here, northeast of the Philippines. That eye is insane. I'm going to switch over here. I know I'm switching a lot. I apologize. But I want to show you another thing is this eye wall replacement cycle is just textbook. And it is one of the most perfect, if not the most perfect eye wall replacement cycle I have seen in at least the last year or two, if not more than that. So I'll load this. This is when it starts that eye wall replacement cycle. So this is when it becomes a super typhoon, and it has that very clear, smaller eye. And I want you to just keep an eye on that eye, no pun intended, but look at that eye wall replacement cycle unfold. And you can see that eye never closed. I haven't seen an eye wall replacement cycle like that in a while. I can't remember the last time I saw something like that. I would say it was probably with our Super Typhoon east of the Philippines. Literally last year, we had a Super Typhoon in the similar location, a little bit south, literally a year ago. And that was probably a similar scenario where the eye wall never closed and it just grew in size. And I mean, this thing didn't just grow in size. It like tripled in size. This thing was like a 10 mile eye from north to south, maybe even a little lower than that, but probably about a 10-mile north to south eye there. And now I think it's up to like 45, if not near 50 miles from north to south. So this thing literally quadrupled in size in terms of north to south measurement of that eye. And it is likely still strengthening. Now it is a larger eye. If you didn't know, a larger eye typically can't strengthen as fast as a smaller eye. But the thing is, this thing already strengthened, right? It's not like it started as a large eye. This thing was a very small eye, rapidly intensified into a super typhoon, and then did an eye wall replacement cycle into a larger eye. So that really, that is just so impressive. It's going to probably maintain that 160, 165 mile per hour sustained winds. And I think it is up to 165. I believe I said 160. It is actually at 165 mile per hour sustained winds as of the 18Z update. And I mean, this thing is a remarkable super typhoon. Honestly, I think it was stronger than 160, 165 earlier. If I go back here, if I go back just a little bit more, right here, when it started that eye wall replacement cycle, I believe this was probably where it was at about a 900 millibar, 180 or maybe 175 mile per hour sustained typhoon. And it may even still be that, honestly. That eye wall replacement cycle probably strengthened it as opposed to weakened it briefly. So, in my opinion, I think this was definitely over 165 mile per hour sustained winds, and I believe the millibar was lower than a 914. I believe we had an observation from a buoy out there northeast of the Philippines that observed a 900 millibar pressure, and I'm quite confident that's at the surface. So definitely an intense super typhoon, and probably was sub 900 at one point. Now I don't know if it was when it was a pinhole eye here. If we go back to about this point here, maybe even last night. This was last night. I feel like that probably wasn't strong enough. That was probably still about a 9, 10 to 20 millibar. It was probably either as it was starting that eye wall replacement cycle or about now when it's near a sub 900 millibar typhoon. And I do think this will keep strengthening. I don't really think the larger eye is going to stop it. It's not like a large eye forms and then it just maintains wind speeds for the entire rest of its duration. It's probably going to strengthen, and then as it hits those islands will likely disrupt it, and then from there on out, it will weaken gradually. Keyword, gradually, because this could still bring impacts to, like, Hong Kong, of sustained winds near 60, 70 miles per hour, even if the eye passes, 50 to 100 miles south of Hong Kong. So a very dangerous situation, not only downstream for Hong Kong and areas to the southwest, but also out here for these islands here north of the Philippines. You could see, and this is a little bit more north than the trajectory that we were anticipating yesterday. It's definitely going to be cutting close to these islands right in here. Let me make that a little bit larger. It's definitely going to cut very close to this island and this island up here. And I believe these islands down here have a combined population of about 20,000. And this island has about 20,000 people as well. So overall, there's going to be like 40, 50 some thousand people under the risk for sustained winds about 160, 165 miles per hour with this typhoon. And that eye is larger too. So those wind speeds, like if we go back to yesterday, this was like 100 and I don't know, 150, 155 mile per hour Cat 4. Those 150 mile per hour sustained winds were like centered to right in here, right? The main eye wall and the outer eye wall. Now those 165 mile per hour winds are going to be more in this area. They're going to be a lot larger, definitely a lot larger. And then those wind gusts upwards of 200 mile an hour wind gusts could be right in this smaller quadrant. But still, because that eye is so much larger, those wind speeds are going to be over a wider area. So these islands here north of the Philippines, even if you are on the southernmost islands or if you are on the more northern islands, you're still going to be feeling at least 100 mile per hour sustained winds. If not, some areas, especially near the eye, could see those sustained 160 to 170 mile per hour sustained winds. Like I said, we could get a couple gusts near or at 200 miles per hour into the overnight hours. So very, very dangerous situation there north of the Philippines. Now I want to take a look here at two different scenarios. Let me just quickly look at those two different scenarios. There we go. I think this scenario is probably the more likely one, so I'm just going to show you this. This is Zoom Earth, which I love for tracking Western Pacific typhoons using the icon model here. So generally, it's located like right about here right now, right? And you could see, look at those wind gusts in the eye here. This says 143. Now, I can tell you those winds are definitely way, 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 way underdone because it says the sustained wind speeds are 100 miles per hour. That's like a high-end Cat 2. This thing is not a high-end Cat 2. This thing is a Category 5. It is a Category 5. But just not really paying attention to the exact wind speeds, but more of that wind field. So your hurricane force wind speeds, they're going to be extending. Let me show you. They're going to be extending like this far out from the eye. Right? Like they're going to be very large for those tropical storm force wind speeds, hurricane force wind gusts. Now the actual hurricane force sustained wind speeds are going to be closer to in here. And then, of course, the strongest wind speeds will be more focused in that very bright white color you see in the middle. So your tropical storm force winds here, they're going to extend very well removed from the center. You could see this is using, again, this is very much underdoing those wind speeds. This has tropical storm force sustained winds on the northern side of the Philippines with wind gust into hurricane force, but again, severely underdone. So these islands, I mean, like gracious day, going to get absolutely hammered here, especially going towards after 10 o'clock tonight, man. I mean, there's no way to get out. Airports have been shut down. There is no way any boats are leaving. So it's just, if you haven't evacuated here, it's just hunkering down. Now, the more populated island is up here. This island has about a 20,000 population up here. That's where a lot of storm chasers are. I know about 5-6 chasers up in the southernmost tip of this island here. And then, like I said, the combined population of this is about 20,000 people here as well. So thankfully it's affecting a little bit lower population because if it were to be a bit more north, it'd be hitting, 10-some thousand people here and then 20,000 people here. But instead it's hitting about 20,000 people further south. So unfortunately, still a lot of people under the gun for a super typhoon here. But yeah, definitely a ridiculous Category 5 Super Typhoon here. And again, these wind speeds very much underdone. I don't want you to pay too much attention to the exact wind speeds because they are far underdone. But if we go ahead and pull this out, now this is using wind gust, mind you. I want to go ahead and pull this out further. This is the icon model again. And the icon model, I do like the icon model here because it keeps the intensity, right? It keeps that realistic Category 4 intensity as this gets into the South China Sea. And the GFS is like, yeah, nah, this thing's going to weaken into like a Cat 2. And I'm like, there ain't no way this thing's going to be a Category 2 by the time it gets south of Hong Kong. But the icon model run is very, very, very far north with this. You can see, if this were to happen, 120, 126 mile per hour wind gusts for Hong Kong in China. That is absurd. And then it does slam into just west of Hong Kong. This area is very, very, very populated. That would be a horrendous situation if that were to happen. A very historic, very horrendous, catastrophic situation. And then if the GFS is correct, now the GFS keeps it south. We can't pull this out anymore, but the GFS does have it making landfall like right out over in this area. So it keeps it south of Hong Kong. But even in this scenario, Hong Kong still gets 70 to 85 mile an hour wind gust. So this typhoon, I mean, it is going to be one for the record books out here, especially north of the Philippines. That's definitely going to be one for the record books north of the Philippines there. And like I said, this cone did shift a little bit more north. If you're wondering about the landfall time, I think this will make landfall probably about 1 a.m. Eastern tomorrow morning. That's what we're looking at for a landfall timing. Just want to bring y'all back to this satellite because it's just absolutely insane. Perfectly symmetrical, large Category 5 Super Typhoon out here. Let me go back over to this satellite. And these are not colors you see very often in such a large matter here. Typically, we only get a couple little instances of some pink in stronger hurricanes, referring to different basin, Atlantic basin. But with this, like the entire symmetrical buzzsaw hurricane here is full of those negative 80 cloud tops, with upwards of negative like 85, negative 90 cloud tops there in the pink area. Don't know why this GIF is taking so long to load. Gracious. But yeah, very, very no imagery to load. Well, that's cap. Well, shoot. You know, we'll go with this one then. This is another very, very great imagery here. Now, if that doesn't load, you know what I'm going to do? Okay. So it was just that one product. I was going to refresh the site if that didn't work. Just a absolute insane typhoon right there. Super symmetrical. I'm trying to see if this is going any more north, but it really looks like it's moving almost due west at this point. Really looks like it's moving almost due west. Gracious day. And you can see that eye has very much cleared out. Very, very much cleared out. There, that's the satellite imagery I was really wanting to show. I don't want to block that watermark there. You can access this site, by the way. It is the first link in the description if you want to view this yourself. This is like the highest resolution satellite I've seen, so this is the site I've been using more recently. And I mean, it is just crazy how symmetrical this system is at this point. Absolutely wild. Yeah, Catman, honestly, I think it is now. I think it's honestly probably closer to 175 mile per hour sustained winds, and a millibar is probably about 900, if not lower. Like I said, we had an observation out here that recorded a 900.3. I forgot the 0.3. 900.3 millibar at the surface. Yep, a perfect storm. I really hope that anyone who was able to could evacuate these islands. I know it's very difficult to evacuate these islands here. Not often do people evacuate for typhoons. It's honestly not that common for people to evacuate with typhoons here. Gracious day, what a beast. Peak is within 6 hours. Yeah. I think it's still strengthening. Even though it's got a larger eye, I think it's still strengthening. Oh man, it's gotta load again. Hey, that was fast. YouTube's annoying. Yeah, they always are. YouTube is always annoying. Now this reminds me of Ian 2022. Gracious day, was it really 3 years ago? Man, Category 5 southwest of Florida. That's what this thing reminds me of. But it's more intense than Ian. That is for sure. It's like a more symmetrical Ian. Ian was very much southern lopsided. It was very lopsided to the south. Like the system just didn't look symmetrical. It didn't look symmetrical outside of the eye. The eye was quite symmetrical. Yeah, you can see it's clearing out that last bit of the eye wall now. The eye isn't fully cleared. It's been working on that for the last about 8 hours or so. And it's almost done. And I think once it's done here, which it's practically done, it's just going to continue to strengthen from here on out. It's just going to keep on strengthening. So, well, that's probably going to be it for this live stream. I would not rule out a live stream tonight. I'm debating on streaming again for this Super Typhoon and just dedicating a stream strictly to this Super Typhoon here. We'll see how strong it gets, and if it does get, if it does get a bit stronger here, I may end up starting up a live stream closer to midnight or so, just to cover it. May not cover landfall, but we'll just cover whatever's happening at near midnight. So, wouldn't rule out a stream then, but I know most of you guys are probably gonna end up being asleep by then due to school. But yeah, if you're not, keep an eye on the channel towards midnight. I may or may not be live midnight Eastern time. Outside of that, I will catch you guys in tomorrow's live stream. Tomorrow will probably be a briefing. I don't imagine I'm going to be covering because it's going to be too late. But I will be live tomorrow, same time, 6 o'clock Eastern time. And then we'll also be live Tuesday. And I'd imagine we're probably going to end up doing a stream Wednesday too. So I'll catch you guys in tomorrow's live stream at 6 o'clock Eastern time. Like I said, wouldn't rule out a live stream later tonight. Just depends on the strength of this typhoon. And I will catch you guys in tomorrow's live stream. Have a fantastic rest of your Sunday night. If you watch it, go enjoy some football. Stay safe. Watch the weather in the tropics. Goodbye. Stay safe, watch the tropics and the severe weather, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a great rest of your night. Goodbye.